Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 140, recording on Sunday, March 5th, 2023. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And today, not a lot to talk about. We're going to be moving straight into what we played. And we'll be focusing on Wo Long. What's the subtitle for this game? This is embarrassing.
The Fallen Dynasty?
The Fallen Dynasty? All right.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I've played a lot of Wo Long and a few other things as well. So that's what we'll be talking about. How you guys doing?
Good.
Pretty good.
That's it?
That's it.
I mean, yeah, it's a slow week. What do you want, man?
All right, whatever.
Like the gaming news, we have nothing to offer.
Okay, so Wo Long, Fallen Dynasty. Is it the Fallen Dynasty or Fallen Dynasty?
I think it's just Fallen Dynasty.
You're right. Sean is correct.
Well, now that we've gotten that straightened out, let's talk about the game. It's the new Souls-like game from Team Ninja. I believe it launched on Game Pass as well, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing it on Steam, and I love the Neo series. It's the series that got me into Souls-likes. I've platinumed both Neos, haven't done all the DLC for those, but I wasn't sure exactly what this game was going to be. We'll go into this a little later about the Dark Souls, Neo, Sekiro, now Wo Long, which is borrowing heavily or tweaking its formula based on Sekiro. And this kind of back and forth between these two series, but I'm familiar with the series. And as soon as I played the demo for 10 minutes, I'm like, okay, it's Neo reskinned with some tweaks. And I'm all about that. So I've played it a ton, like 10 or 12 hours so far. You guys played it briefly. What do you guys think of the game?
Well, I can say that I am enjoying what I've played, but I am still very early. I've only played half an hour. And I must say I'm kind of overwhelmed by two things. One, how I got lost, or briefly, though. I must say it was pretty good. I was able to kind of figure it out later. But then also just the amount of mechanics that they're throwing at you so early, I was a little surprised at. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but within the first half an hour, I'm dying already constantly. For one, I have, two different types of attacks. I've got this like encounter meter. I still don't really understand, some number over my head. I can't remember what it's called.
Morale system?
Yes, morale system. And then I also have like, dodge and parry. I've got block, which they haven't even told me about yet, but I just kind of like stumbled across it. And then also magic. And I'm upgrading like 5 different magic trees out of the gate. I'm a little overwhelmed in the first half an hour that I don't really know what I'm doing. And I don't know if what I'm picking is the right thing. But overall, it seems pretty well paced so far in terms of like the amount of enemies I'm facing. It's pretty much 1-on-1, maybe 2-on-1. Nothing's like overwhelming me too badly. And I think it's doing a pretty good job of introducing me to the concept of basically like avoidance and counters and just like the gameplay in general.
Sean, too hard for you? How's it going?
Well, I mean, I've played probably less than Huck, so I don't think I've really hit anything that was super hard. Like I've fought like maybe 10 or 12 enemies, and like, yeah, there like anybody can kill you in this game, as is common with Souls likes, but I haven't hit, like Huck, you mentioned some monster or something you stumbled across. Like I haven't hit anything like that yet. But like, yeah, I'm assuming this isn't really for me, but there were a few things that I was a little bit intrigued by based on stuff that I had read. And I guess knowing Team Ninja, like I think the one thing that I do like that I kind of prefer on the Team Ninja side is speed. These games are faster, they're fluid. It's something about the Souls likes and how kind of like the stamina meters and things that it just feels very cumbersome. And I don't really like that. So I appreciate the fact that you can just kind of go at somebody and it feels fast and satisfying. So I like that. I wasn't sure if this was an open world game. I think I read it's not really, and certainly based on the first like 20 minutes or so, it does not seem to be. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing for me yet. I guess that would maybe like I did like that about Elden Ring, the fact that, you know, if you hit something hard, you could just go somewhere else. So I kind of think I would prefer that. And then I guess the other thing, which I haven't really seen enough of to know yet, but that morale system you were talking about, you know, I read something that you kind of can. So the morale system, if I'm not mistaken, the idea is like when you get hit, or when you die, I don't know, you lose morale, but you can only lose it to the point of what you've built up so far. And so if you kind of go off and try to find these, what are they, like flags or something you have to raise?
Battle flags and marking flags, which raise your minimum morale.
Right. So then if you kind of go out and find more of those, at least you're kind of giving yourself a bit more of a chance in combat. So I think that's something that's maybe supposed to make it a little more approachable. But yeah, I mean, even like it feels like Ninja Gaiden to me, which, you know, was that game. I don't think I made it past the first boss, and I was just like, I'm out. So I'm pretty sure this is not for me, but, you know, I might give it a little more of a chance.
Well, it's interesting to hear your thoughts as someone who's played a lot of Neo. I'm trying to go back to the first time I played Neo and trying to learn all the systems. I think this game, much like Sekiro, is more focused from the traditional Neo experience in the sense that there's less customization, and you know, the magic system and leveling up is a little more focused. There's less weapons and skill trees for every single weapon, unless that gets added later. I'm not sure. It's just kind of some elemental magic. And that's what Sekiro did. It took the RPG experience of a From Software game and turned it into more of an action experience, less on stats, more on, I think you could only go up to like level 15, or the leveling was much slower. This is more like somewhere in between RPG and action, in terms of how much you level up and need to collect. I think it's chi instead of souls in this one. I might be wrong. But it's got a reverse, like you can go into negative spirit and positive spirit. And this system is like a balance of your vulnerability to being stunned and to stun enemies, which is very similar to the stagger system, I think it's called in Sekiro. So I actually love the morale system. It's a way of, it's kind of what Sean wanted in an open world Souls-like. It allows you to level up and improve your chances within a small level. So if you want, you can keep going around. There's still some risk. If you get hit by unblockable attacks, you can lose morale. But as long as you keep playing and you're relatively good at the game, you can raise your morale to a point that makes the difficulty a little more achievable while you level up your character at the same time. So I've done a few levels, like just killing everything and getting to max morality and then fighting the boss. And I find it pretty easy in comparison to Neo and Elden Ring and other From Software games. So I'm kind of breezing through it and enjoying it. Like it's not too easy. It's just a fun playthrough for experienced, I guess, Neo players. My criticism would be the bosses. The first boss is very challenging. Everyone since, if I have high morale, they're really quick, actually. Like I did not struggle, and I'm sure they're going to get more difficult, but it was kind of disappointing that I only fought the bosses once and it wasn't that much of a challenge. But other than that, I love the world. The initial area was a little bland, but the second area, the forest, the bamboo forest, I love. And I definitely needed a refresher after Neo 2. Neo 2 was a lot of the same ideas as Neo 1, just slightly tweaked and borrowing a bit from Sekiro, but taking it to China and kind of reimagining the creatures, the divine beasts or divine spirits, whatever it is. And, you know, just a new take. I needed that. So I'm really enjoying a refresh on this type of game. And it's got jumping and more vaulting mechanics. to climb up walls. It's a little more mobile, much in the same way Sekiro was compared to Dark Souls. So I'm in. It's like the first time I played Neo. I cannot stop playing. Once I start, I have to pull myself away from it. It's just, I like the small linear levels. It's a very tight loop. And then I do a sub mission, which is a shorter mission. And then I go to the main ones, and it keeps me engaged. Whatever it is about this series, it just works for how I like to play games.
Yeah, one thing I found nice, which I wasn't necessarily expecting, I didn't really know, like I knew it was sort of like Neo and stuff, and I knew it was sort of Souls-like, but I haven't played that many Souls-like game. I think the last game I played was probably the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order or whatever it's called game. So I played that a while ago. So when I was able to die, when I died and still kept the items I had found, I thought that was a nice, a nice design choice by them. So I'm not punished for dying, especially in a game where you're gonna, die a lot. I mean, in that first area, I died quite a few more times than I thought I was gonna die. And there was a couple times where I was just like rolling to dodge and then would find myself standing in some fire and die that way. And that was kind of frustrating. But the level up capping, like, are you using just money to pay, like essentially to up your level base?
Nope. So you can level your character. And that's like when you rest, you invest into certain elements and stats go up. That's a general leveling of the character. Yeah. But then you have a sub level. Morality acts as a sub level within a stage that like lets you kind of minorly tweak your character for difficulty within the stage as well, which I think is really effective. And we were talking a bit before the show. You go to a certain area, you see an enemy that's really difficult or high morale. It's a good way of knowing where you should be going in the level. Like, and in Dark Souls, part of the element of discovery in those games is you find an enemy and then you find out too late that they're really hard, right? Where this game, you can see the number ahead and you're like, okay, I probably shouldn't go this way yet, or it's a calculated risk if I go that way. And morale is affected by taking critical attacks, which are unblockable attacks, which is basically borrowing one of the greatest, if not the greatest mechanic in a video game from the last 10 years, the Mikiri counter from Sekiro, which is an offensive counter. In Sekiro, you would step on a spear and do this amazing move. It felt so good. They tried to do this in Neo 2 and it didn't feel as good. The whole game is based on the idea of the satisfaction of their Mikiri counter clone or their own version of that. That's how you need to play the game. Always be countering, being offensive. And that's what I loved about Sekiro. And I feel like they've honed that idea and built an entire game around it. And obviously credit has to go to From Software for kind of inventing this idea. But I feel like this game has done a great job at basing a whole system around that extremely satisfying mechanic.
I must say that like the parrying feels good, but when you do it, it's almost so fast, I can't track what's going on. Because you kind of like quickly swing around behind the guy, and then I think you almost like auto attack one time, I think, maybe. Anyways.
An animation that I think does damage and reads as an attack when it happens to you. But if you fail that counter, your morale goes down. So if you have a good run and you're deflecting everything, not taking damage, you can raise that morale meter pretty quickly, and you lose half of your chi, and you go to your lowest possible morale if you die. And you can get it back if you kill the enemy that killed you. But the cool thing is the flags, as you raise them throughout the level and you find hidden ones, you can raise your base morality. So the worst you'll ever do if you die is revert to that. So it rewards exploration in a sense too. If I go find all the flags, I know I'm never going to drop below 20 morale. I'm like, okay, worst case, I go to the boss, and if I need to level up a bit, I can. But I really like the loop. I think the game loop is really strong.
Okay, so that base morale, that is just done through finding the flags. You can't. Okay, I must have misread that because I thought you could like level that up somehow. But
you
It
can
must
go
have just been
beyond it.
saying,
You can level it up yourself. The flags are the lowest. By finding flags, that's the lowest you can drop to when you die. So if you die twice, you'll never go beyond that marker.
right. I thought you could like level that up through some currency, but it's just finding the things. Okay. So now, like, I also liked how they do the whole unlocking a shorter route that lets you avoid sort of like the backtracking the whole way. And just the fact that,
which is a Dark Souls staple too, right? Like
yeah. So that was not unexpected, but it was not, when I found the first one in the first area, I was not really clear that that's what I was doing. And and I could have easily gone the other way and completely missed that, and then had to do the backtracking every time. So I don't know if that improves, but I was a little disappointed in that, because I mean, I felt like I was lucky that I just happened to turn right instead of left, and they do put a little item up there to like taunt you to go up there, but still, like, some of the choices so far have been a little curious.
I don't know if it's because I play Neo, or I've played it so much that whenever I get into a new level, I explore everything. And by the time I'm done with the boss, I know that level inside out. And I find personally, for me, the level size is perfect. It's exactly what I can digest and remember in one sitting, even to the point where when I went back and played Neo again, or revisited it, I like, oh, I remember this level. I remember where this was. And I kind of explored it, and it works for me. It's right in line with what I like. So I could see how other people miss the exploration and mystery of Dark Souls. I kind of like this game's loop. I will say I do end up reusing. The only variety with some of the moves is by experimenting with weapons, which I'm not as crazy about. And it still suffers from inventory management and burden that Neo did as well. Like, I'm always getting loot that is useless and having to do management with it all the time, and that gets annoying.
So what is actually the penalty for dying then?
You lose like half of your chi, and you go down to your lowest possible morality.
Okay, and then the revenge thing of like killing the person who killed you brings your morale back up. Does it also
your morale back and your chi? Yeah.
Okay. But I assume if you die again in the meantime, then that's just lost.
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
I haven't died that much, or I haven't not recovered it that often. It's a hero drop. It's okay. I get it.
And the chi is the currency to level up with, right?
Yeah. It's like souls or Amrita or whatever.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The currency is souls, like it's souls.
Experience.
But I like the world. The creature design is always great in these Team Ninja games. The bosses, very imaginative. The game gets more colorful, which it was always I love the art style of Neo. And at first I was like, this feels a little washed out. It doesn't feel like what I'm used to from these games, but it gets there in the second area. So I am in. I just fired it up and I'm like, am I ready to play another one of these games? I'm kind of tired. And I actually think the difficulty and morale system is what hooked me. It's playable. I'm not dying a lot and I'm just having fun playing the game. But a lot of people, apparently the first boss I've heard I was talking on the Discord with some listeners, and a lot of people are saying the first boss is the hardest, which I think it took me 6 tries, which was the most of any boss so far, but it wasn't too bad.
So I found this one secret area with a guy or a sub boss, mini boss, I guess, that was like 15 morale. So I knew I was kind of getting into it with this guy. But I was confused. Like, are these areas, these side areas, they were a little hidden because it was like blocked by some boxes that I had to break. Mm-hmm. But are these little like self-contained areas, or are these like areas that you're supposed to come back to later and then you progress the story later?
Not always. There are optional areas for sure. And usually those have hidden elements like upgrading your healing, or number of times you can heal. Can't remember what they call it in this game. And there's usually the optional flags rather than the battle flags that help you bump up your lowest morale as well in case you need it. So I think they're actually, it's a really good incentive for exploration that I can raise my morale and make the end boss fight easier rather than just exploring for the sake of exploring, which I'm going to do anyway. I can't help it, but it's a nice reward for me as a player to actually get something useful.
So when you're leveling up for a boss, would you actually grind the like areas you've already gone that you could avoid now because you've like unlocked those unbacktrack areas kind of thing? Would you go back and grind those anyways just to raise your morale?
I have been, but more because I've been looking for all the collectibles and trying to like complete every level as I play it. So then by the time I'm really powerful at the end, I can backtrack through the whole level pretty quickly, kill everyone, find everything, and then rest once and then hit the boss, which is, I think, just Neo experience. I'm like programmed to play levels that way, but I love it. So as a like first initial thought, what is better, this or Neo 2? Well, if I'm going to rank them, I think I'm going to have to go. We have to rank Sekiro first. Like this game is borrowing from Sekiro. So I'm going to go Sekiro. It's early, but I think I'm going to say Wo Long, then Neo, then Neo 2. Neo 2 is the bottom, 100%. Neo 2 just kept adding mechanics and making it more complicated, and it was kind of frustrating. And they tried to do a version of this counter system, and it just wasn't as snappy. I wasn't exactly sure when I succeeded or failed, when this is a little more lenient with the timing of the counters, and it feels great when you get one right. And that's what made those Mikiri counters so good.
Cool.
So I have to, what I was talking about before, I know I've said it before. I cannot believe this is not a bigger deal that people don't. There should be a From Software Team Ninja rivalry in the industry. Neo hijacks Souls-likes. They make their own version of it, basically copying it in feudal Japan or fantasy version of Japan. Then Sekiro says, well, we're going to do the same thing. And it wasn't just like the same area, like some of the currencies, logos, HUD elements are the same. And so Sekiro, but we're going to add something better. We're going to make the combat better. And now this game comes along and pretty much borrows Sekiro's most compelling ideas, including traversal and being more action focused. And I don't know. I love them all. I love all the games. I don't care. I don't think it's a big deal. I could just see if I had created all the ideas in Sekiro and then another game was just, reusing them. It would kind of bother me a bit, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, so I haven't played really any of these games you're talking about, but like I feel like From Software just has the name recognition. Like everyone knows those games. Everyone knows Dark Souls. I mean, Souls-like comes from that. So they just are the name in this kind of game. I feel like Neo, like I had heard of it, but I don't know if the sales numbers are there. But I mean, I could be wrong. It just feels like a lesser thing. People aren't as aware of it.
That's true for sure. And I guess what I'm actually surprised about then is that people don't shit on Team Ninja more. That they're wannabe Souls-likes and trying to copy From Software. I feel like gamers would be shitting on them constantly. And I guess it's good that they don't, because I think they're good games in their own right. And I'm glad they all exist because I love them all. But it's just weird to me. I feel like it would be a bigger thing.
I wonder how many teams Team Ninja has internally, because I didn't realize they also did the Final Fantasy Origins Stranger of Paradise game. They did the newest Fire Emblem Warriors game, I should say. And then they just released this Wo Long game, and they have Rise of the Ronin coming up too. So obviously they have at least 2 teams, if not 3, I would argue. It almost sounds like they have like I don't know what type of the game Rise of the Ronin is, but they have kind of like Wolong. That's kind of like the Neo team, it seems like. And then whatever this Rise of the Ronin is. And then they almost have like a third sort of like outsourcing studio or team that just helps, get other products out so they can, keep going and making money. But they also did like the Ninja Gaiden collection, Neo collection, Hyrule Warriors they did. So it seems like they do a lot of contract work as well. So it's interesting because From Software, I believe, just does their own stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I don't know if there's I even think part of Team Ninja, like in terms of Koei Temco, might be working on stuff like Wild Hearts and other games as well. So they do pump out a lot of stuff. And they did, I don't remember them, Team Ninja specifically, being this proficient when we were younger. It was just like the Ninja Gaiden games, and then Ninja Gaiden made a comeback on Xbox, and I think they did Other M.
Yeah, they did do Other M. Ouch.
Yeah, do you mean prolific or do you mean proficient? Because I think you mean prolific. And yeah, there's a ton of games. Like,
I think I meant proficient, like just at churning out games.
Okay. But I mean, like, I didn't realize, they did Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Like, there's some weird games in here that I don't really seem like their style. Like, maybe it's just contract work. I don't know, but it is interesting.
It's weird on there.
Maybe it's a combination of both. That I don't know if they just were choosing, or they were a smaller company and to make less games, or it took them longer to make them, but probably a bit of both. And they're just pumping them out like crazy now. And I hope it's a team dedicated to, okay, let's take this format to another world. I'm sure there'll be Wolong 2 if this does well. And what's the next area like fantasy realm we can turn this genre into? I'm into it. I don't mind. I just hope they don't go too far down the sequel route where it's Neo 2 was way less interesting than this game.
I guess, and just to add to this rivalry thing you're talking about, it looks like Masaki Yamagiwa is joined Team Ninja, but was at From Software previously and was a producer on Bloodborne. So
poaching the talent.
Maybe it's not. So it says join Team Ninja after the closure of Sony's Japan studio. So maybe he wasn't at From Software, but like because Sony was publishing it, was still involved. I'm not sure.
Fair enough. If you like Dark Souls bosses, the Team Ninja games really deliver on the visual look of the bosses, the same way that From Software games do. The bosses are so cool, especially anyone's that are creatures or fantasy influenced boss ideas. They are always amazing. The boar I fought was so cool. Yeah, it's good. They're good games. All right, I think that's all I have to say about it, though, for now.
I must say that the timeline is definitely interesting. How, like, From Software put out all the Dark Souls games, and then Team Ninja put out Neo and Neo 2, kind of. Oh, I guess in between there, and then From Software put out Sekiro.
Sekiro was before Neo 2, I think.
It was, yeah, 1 year before. Sorry, and then now we have Wolong, which is kind of, a jump off of that, and then Elden Ring, I guess, is its own sort of like Dark Souls spinoff, not really related to this rivalry part.
Well, the question would be if From Software does a like Chinese fantasy version of their games, like, well, we can do that too, or we'll make it better than what you make. I don't know. This has got to be a documentary 10 years from now.
Yeah. I wonder. It would be interesting to sit to be in Japan and know people, or be at one of the studios and see like what the conversation's like about it. Cause I'm sure, they know people at each studio because the games are so similar. that I imagine there is some flow between the two teams.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting.
And they're the exact same genre and world for the most part. So I don't want to add fuel to the fire, but I kind of am. Thumbs up. All right. Anything else you guys played?
Yeah. A few other things. I can mention finally crossed something off the list of shame. Finally. Resident Evil 2, the remake. Finally beat it. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good. I will say there was some stretches in the middle where I guess this is kind of my, like, you know, we've debated. Frank has called me out. Are you a fan of Resident Evil or just Resident Evil 4? I still don't really know, to be honest with you. But, you know, like the thing with survival horror, like I like horror in video games. I like horror in movies. So I enjoy a movie that has, or a game that has atmosphere, that has suspense, has jump scares. I'm cool with all that stuff. What I don't love about survival horror is sort of the resource management aspect of it. And there was definitely a couple stretches in the middle of this game where, or maybe even earlier than the middle, but like it's still in the police station, where I had no ammo, and there's like those lickers patrolling certain areas. You've got Mr. X chasing you. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't fun. Like, you know, in the end, it wasn't like it was that hard. Like, I don't think I died all that many times in this game, but just the idea of knowing, okay, I got to get to this place and there's like these creatures all over the place and I have no way to fight. I just have to run. I don't know. That just isn't that fun or satisfying, but you know, I do feel like that is part of these games. I know, Frank, you've argued that you just kill everything, and that's how it's supposed to be played. But
are you playing on normal?
Yeah,
I never ran out of ammo ever in that game.
I feel like in the later sections, I never did. Like I had tons of ammo and health. So maybe it was just that there were certain rooms that I could have gone into that I didn't. And you know, once I kind of hit that section of the game, that's where I start using a guide, because I'm like I don't want to die a million times. Like I want to know where I'm going. And so that from then on, once I stocked up again, I was fine. But yeah, just I don't know. That particular section I was not loving. But other than that, like I like all the little puzzle elements in these games. You know, the story, you know, not that I totally understand where it fits into the whole grand scheme of things, but I kind of enjoyed what was there in this game. And yeah, looking forward to part 4 remake. I don't know if I'll jump into 3. I still haven't played that, but I might wait on that a bit. But yeah, and I guess I don't know if you guys ever played the original Resident Evil 2. I never did. So I don't have that comparison in my head of how far that remake brought it. You know, like I have to assume it was a pretty huge, like in terms of remakes, a pretty big overhaul or reimagining or whatever you want to call it. So I don't have that appreciation there because I never played the original, but it's still quite good.
Yeah, I played Resident Evil 2. I can't remember if I beat it on PlayStation. It feels like the same game, but it is drastically different in terms of perspective. Not a big surprise there, but I love Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I also never played the original or the remake, so I have no comment at all. So after beating Subnautica last week, I jumped right into Subnautica Below Zero, which I don't think is technically the second game. It's kind of like a 1.5, I believe. But it does do a lot of the same stuff that Subnautica does, new world to explore. It adds another survival mechanic, the temperature. So if you're out of the water, you can lose your body heat and you could suffer hypothermia and die. So that's another level of, stat you need to track to make sure you don't fall too low. But it's nice. There are some plants and stuff you can get that raise your body heat. So it's not all just like running frantically through or trying to craft all the right stuff. There's like some other ways to mitigate that resource management. And I would say I'm enjoying it mainly because it's comfortable and I'm used to this world now and I recognize what all the resources look like. So it's very easy for me to find the stuff I'm looking for. They did add something they called the mineral scanner, which lets you basically like select a resource type and then it tells you if it's near you. So that's kind of nice. But at the same time, usually resources are only in specific areas. So you still need to know the area to get to in order to use that thing, in order to find it. But overall, I feel like it's a lot smaller than the first one or the original Subnautica. But I feel like it's still, it's unlocking sort of like the places to go and explore at a good pace right now. And I feel like I'm finding everything. There's a few like recipes and stuff I'm unable to complete because I just don't know where to look for them. But I don't think they're blocking me in any way. And yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's pretty good. Some of the stuff is a little tricky, but it's kind of one of those things where they give you all the information and you just kind of have to piece it together. And sometimes it just takes a little longer to piece it together than I would like, or, you know, because the area is so large, it's kind of like trying to learn, you know, a city's layout after like only visiting twice is just really hard to do. So overall, really liking it. I like the first one more at this stage, but I it's still got the hooks in me. Subnautica still got the hooks in me.
I really like the art style for Below Zero, and I've never played a survival game, and I feel like it's a big blind spot. I need to try some survival games because they're huge.
Mm-hmm. They're huge.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna like Subnautica is definitely on my list of games I want to try. But have we talked about this? Like, would you consider these games to be Metroid inspired in their like sort of exploration and you know, how you navigate the world, or is that a bit of a stretch?
I don't think so. It's not usually like you come across something and you can't go through it or open it, and then it's like there's not that gating, and then you have to come back to it. In this, it's sort of like the gating is like the depth you can go to, and so you just have to like find the resources and find the recipes that allow you to craft, you know, the ability to go deeper. So it's not really the same. It's more like I don't know. It would be more like exploring like a bubble, and in order to like increase the size of the bubble you can explore, you need to upgrade things, and it's sort of like leveling up in an RPG. Like, oh yeah, you could venture out to that forest, but the shit out there is going to kill you. But if you get to level 20, then it's no problem. So instead of like leveling up or whatever to explore further, you're crafting items that increase your capabilities that allow you to explore farther. So I wouldn't say it's Metroid-like in that regard. It is, I would say the only thing that this does that I don't think other exploration games, or actually I haven't played that many explorations, so can't really comment, but it does do a good thing of like after you've played, I think there's two things. After you've played for a certain amount of time, you'll get essentially like a radio call that's like, oh, you should go to this area and check this out. And then you just go there and it's something to look into, and it'll give you new recipes and stuff. And then also if you discover something or find like a notepad kind of thing, well, they're called PDAs in the game, but you know, it'll then give you more information that'll either let you craft stuff or, you know, progress the story. And I think that method of progressing the story is good, but the downfall is if you miss seeing one of those, like you're kind of fucked, and you'd have to like go back and figure out that you missed something. So I ran into that where I needed this item, and you need to find 3 of them in order to learn the recipe. And I had found 2, and I had no idea where the other one is. So I'm now like searching, you know, the internet, and they're like, oh yeah, it's like just in this box you have to like cut open. I'm like, okay, I never would have seen that. And I never would have thought to go back there to look for this thing. So in that regard, it could be frustrating. And I think I talked about it the last time with the end of Subnautica, where, you know, you have this new recipe with these plants and you don't know where these plants are. How would you ever figure this out without just exploring forever and cutting every plant you come across? So there are certain things about exploration games I think benefit from having the internet. Like, I don't think these type of games would survive in a pre-internet era. It kind of reminds me more of an adventure game where like you're stuck and then you need to like consult your buddy who's gotten past this part and you're kind of working as a team. Whereas in this case, the team is the internet and they have already figured it all out. So, yeah, I think these games require the internet and require people to be available to help you when you get stuck for them to be totally fun.
Kind of an interesting point. Like, I don't know, like, do game developers now think about that in terms of like, well, like obviously you want the player to have everything they need to know, but like maybe for hidden areas, things that are, you know, optional, are they just thinking, okay, we're not going to tell them, the internet's going to help them, kind of thing? Like, is that a consideration? You know, I feel like I
like that with From Software games, even Demon's Souls. Remember that being, well, check the internet if you're not sure what to do.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, I remember when Elden Ring first came out, some of the initial reviews talked about, because these people were the first people playing Elden Ring, and so that idea of like this community of like the first people playing it having to really just talk to each other, because it's like you can't figure this stuff out on your own. It's kind of an interesting thing, but
I don't like it. I want the
yeah,
game to teach me how to play.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. I prefer that too. Yeah,
I don't like it, but I'm happy it's there. I have the internet as around so that I can progress through, because I like the loop of the game. I find it relaxing to just like collect resources and build stuff and then collect more resources and build stuff. It's pretty relaxing, kind of like an RPG, grinding to get levels in that regard. But yeah, if you are looking for something and you can't find it, it's super frustrating. I mean, a similar thing would be like waiting for a loot drop in like an MMO or an RPG, and that could be frustrating. You're just like, feel like you're kind of wasting your time. And I think there's something equivalent to that. One game I wanted to try, The Forest is like a huge game, always selling tons. I don't know anything about this game at all.
They just released a sequel, didn't they? Or like a
did they?
Follow-up, Sons of the Forest in
really?
Access. I almost bought it. I was like, this might be the one I try.
Huh. But I always wanted to try The Long Dark, which is a Canadian developed game. I think they're from Vancouver. And that one also is kind of like under the radar, but always still kind of around. Like I always see it. So that's another one I was interested in trying. But yeah, Subnautica is really the only one, unless you I never even really got into Minecraft, which I would also consider this type of game. But I mean,
three on my radar are Don't Starve, which seems like a kind of accessible 2D survival game. Valheim and Sons of the Forest are the three I'm debating. So if anyone has thoughts or a good place to start with survival games, knowing what I like and what I don't like, chime in on the Discord or comment on this video.
I think we got to play Grounded at some point. That feels like a good starter survival game, but
okay.
I did play a bit of it when it was in sort of like early access, and it wasn't really grabbing me, but.
All right. I will say I 100%ed Forespoken just in time for Wo Long. So did everything, all the achievements. Was getting a little annoying by the end. I had to push through to do everything, but I still think the combat and traversal is pretty fun. It can be a little frustrating in the end game stuff. And I played a little more PSVR 2. The new game I tried was The Light Brigade, which is a roguelike game, which I really like the idea. And it had like this praying mechanic where you have to like put your hands together and pray to activate things, which I thought was neat. The weapons felt pretty good. but it throws you into a level, and I would just got destroyed every time. I didn't even know what to do. I was like, am I completely missing some idea with the game? The enemies, as soon as I get in the level, they see me right away, and I'm done within a minute of starting the level 3 times in a row. And I'm like, I'm missing something here. This game is not getting me hooked on its loop, on its roguelite loop or whatever it is, which is kind of disappointing because I like the art style and the idea of a roguelite VR game, but I might give it another chance. But I was pretty frustrated with my first encounter with this game.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard good things about that game. So that's
I like the character design. I generally thought movement was good and art style, but I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I can't hit enemies. There's no way to defend myself when they get close to me. I'm on the run constantly. And if anyone played it or if I'm missing something, let me know. And then I played a bit of Tetris Effect, which is good. And I tried a demo for, is it Rock Drums? I think it's called. It's another rhythm game.
Smash Drums?
I think it's Rock Drums.
Played Smash Drums. I don't know about Rock Drums.
There's a bunch of these. Let me just Drums Rock.
All right.
Drums Rock. And it was pretty good. It was rhythm games are fun in VR, and this was no exception. So I just did the demo. I bought it after that, but that's all I did. But I'm liking the tech more. Today it was the focus level, the lack of light leak, haptic feedback. It's the most satisfying VR experience I can remember.
Is Ragnarok available on PSVR yet?
I think it was on PSVR 1. I don't think it's on PSVR 2, but do not quote me.
Oh, I see a trailer for it. Maybe it's not out yet, but I think it is coming to PSVR 2. That's a pretty fun drumming game too.
Yeah, I got to try that as well.
I did play a demo for a VR game as well, which is that Humanity game, which we talked about last week. That was part of the State of Play, the Sony State of Play. And I don't recall, I think it comes out in May, but there is a demo for PSVR, PSVR 2, and I think there's even a Steam VR demo for this right now. And I was just kind of curious because we were talking about it and, you know, what exactly is this game? And it is a bit like Lemmings, as we said, but the difference is that at least in the initial kind of objectives, you're not really trying to get all the humans from start to finish. There's just kind of an endless stream of humans, and you have to get a certain number to the finish. So, you know, you're doing a bunch of things, you're directing them around, and eventually once you get that path worked out, if you get enough of them in, you beat that level. But then I did a few additional levels, and there's like these, I forget what they're called, but they're kind of like these golden figures or statues or something. And it's like, as you're directing the humans, now you have to direct the humans to touch these guys, and those guys specifically have to get to the finish. And if they go off the edge or something, then you lose them. So, but then there's other things like you can actually, so you're controlling a dog and you can jump into the humans and kind of like ride the wave of humans up to get to places you couldn't reach and stuff. So there's some interesting, different mechanics. It's not just a Lemmings ripoff, but I was kind of enjoying it. I don't know that the VR is a key aspect of this game. Like, I'm pretty sure there's a non-VR version as well.
That's correct.
And I guess it's nice to just be able to look everywhere in VR, but I don't know. I don't know if it's necessary.
Sorry, you played the demo for Humanity?
Yeah.
And what did you play it on? Is it on Oculus as well, or
PSVR?
Oh, it's on the old one?
Yeah, but and it's on both the old one and the new one.
I downloaded on 2. Ragnarok is on and is available for PSVR 2 now. It was a launch day game.
Nice.
Anything else I got more. Anything else for you guys?
Nope.
Huck, no.
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
All right.
You go ahead, Frank.
I played Patch Quest. I was checking out Steam. It launched this week. And it's another roguelite game where it's a top-down shooter, like a lot of roguelikes. The hook for this one is you can capture creatures and get different abilities from riding them. And it's very colorful, simple art style that's pretty effective. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. I did probably 5 runs. I like there's an exploration element of finding more information, and it encourages exploration in fun ways, but not a mind-blowing game by any means, but still pretty fun.
Cool.
So I really like the art style.
What's it called?
Patch Quest.
Patch Quest.
It was in early access for a while, and they launched their 1.0 version March 2nd. It just showed up on my feed on Steam, and I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a poke.
Yeah, it does look cool.
Not bad. And then I also just fired up Returnal once after I Forespoken, and I played 7 hours straight, got through Act 1, and my God, I love this game. I had to pull myself away. I could have gone and played Returnal until I did everything in it again. It's so good. I love that game. And now I'm good at it. It's much less of a chore going through the entire sequence of events. I think I beat it on my 3rd or 4th run and was like, this game rules. Still love it.
Cool. I have one other game I can quickly mention. I tried Blanc, Blanc, which we saw, I think, at one of the Nintendo Directs at some point. This is like the co-op game where it's I believe it's a fox and a deer. Maybe it's a dog and a deer. I'm not sure. But it's black and white kind of hand.
And a fawn.
Sorry?
A wolf cub and a fawn.
Okay. Makes sense. And so it's hand-drawn black and white art style. And, it's kind of not I don't know. It's a little bit, the puzzles are pretty easy from what I've seen so far. And I think it's a pretty short game. So I feel like I'm probably halfway through it. But, the hardest part is figuring out where you can actually walk. It's like one of these games where you're in the snow, and it's kind of sometimes hard to tell like which path you're supposed to take. Like you're hitting a lot of invisible barriers and stuff. And so that's what the majority of my time was spent, was just like, where am I supposed to walk here? Which isn't the best, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I did like the art style and stuff. And it's something that, I picked it up thinking I would play it with the kids, and they were like, what? We're not going to play a black and white game. Forget it. So I ended up playing it with Alicia, and, she was kind of enjoying it. So I think it's definitely more of a casual co-op game, but, yeah, I think just the frustration of figuring out where to go is the one criticism I would have.
Not gonna lie, sounds rough, but I'm still intrigued. Okay, I think that's it. We talked a lot about a bunch of games, so maybe there'll be some news for next week. Any major events in gaming coming up? I don't think so, at least this week. I don't even think
there was something, but I can't remember what it was. I don't know. Can't have been that big.
You never know. Check us out on youtube.com/GameJunk if you're listening. Discord links are there as well. And Sean is Film Junk on Twitter. Huck is My Angry Commute and Equilibrium Sis. Thanks for listening or watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.